Hello everyone, this is Sanchino Plays, and welcome back to yet another video. A week ago from posting this, I had released the first part of my plus 10 Barracks tour that I had promised to you all as part of my little celebration for having reached 50 subscribers, and now is the time for me to continue on to part 2. Pretty much the same as last video. What I'm going to be doing is going through each of the units that are left on my list, explaining a little bit as to why it is that I plus 10'd them and what use I gave them at whatever point that I was using them. Now, most of these heroes are going to consist of units that I currently still use, so there may be a little bit more in-depth explanation depending on who the unit is. And much like last time, there are some that I purposefully plus 10'd and some that I plus 10'd mostly by accident. So without further ado, let's get into the 16th unit in my plus 10 Barracks tour. First up on the list, we have Azura, Resplendent Azura to be specific. Now, me plus 10'ing her was in part based on the nostalgia that Fire Emblem Fates brings to me. I know that Fire Emblem Fates gets a lot of hate in the Fire Emblem community because of its storytelling and its centralization to a fault on the main character, that being Corrin. But Azura, I always just liked her design, and I really did like her story in Fire Emblem Fates, and she just looks so beautiful in her resplendent attire that I thought it would be a good idea to give her the plus 10, especially since she was pretty easy to summon on these revival banners that we've been getting pretty much every week. The set you're seeing right now is basically a Gale Force set. My intention was to use her on a Gale Force team, especially a Ninja Force team, and I ended up not using it as much as I thought I would, but she's definitely seen some use in PvE content more than anything, and she does put in quite a bit of work, with its curtains and quickened pulse bringing Gale Force down to just 2 cooldown, where she just needs to hit something, have something hit her back, and then she gets Gale Force. And that's before counting anything that might have quickened pulse, or a support unit like Veronica who could even further reduce her Gale Force cooldown. The rest of the set is pretty standard. Her usual Sing as her assist skill, Fury 3 and Wings of Mercy. Fury 3 being there to have her reduce her own HP. That way she can be the target of a Wings of Mercy ally. But honestly, I'm glad that I plus 10'd her. It's a pretty, it's somewhat high investment, I guess, but I basically just plus 10'd her because I thought that her art looked absolutely beautiful. So here you go, plus 10 Resplendent Azura. Next up on the list, we have my legendary Claude, one of my absolute favorite units to use in Fire Emblem Heroes. The story with him is I just love Claude. Claude is just a complex, fantastic character, like a lot of the ones in Fire Emblem Three Houses. Definitely one of my favorite of the 3 main lords, and I got so lucky in getting him to plus 10. So it took me less orbs to get 11 copies of Claude than it did for me to get 5 copies of Legendary Alm. I can't tell you how many orbs that meant because I did not count how many orbs I was summoning for either one. I was using 2 summon for either one, you know? But that being said, I am so glad that I managed to plus 10 him in his debut banner as well. The set is pretty standard. It's basically his default kit from when you summon him. Just slap Io's shield on him so flyer units can't really take advantage of his flying weakness. Deadeye and rally up attack for arena scoring. I know that I need to replace his C skill with a premium C skill, but I just have not figured out what I want to do, and also there's a slight lack of fodder in my barracks right now. So definitely one of my favorite units to use in Fire Emblem Heroes. He destroys chain challenges like it's nothing. So honestly, I'm just glad that I managed to get him to plus 10, and he works wonders in Earth Season and Arena. So just happy to have him. It's just one of my favorite units to use, hands down. My decision to plus 10 Seliph was mainly based on wanting to have an alternative light season carry to Brave Ike. I ended up not using him as much, so part of me feels like maybe I wasted the feathers. But he does put in a good amount of work in PvE content, so I guess it wasn't a total loss. His Divine Tearfing Refine is also phenomenal. I don't know if Hay or Sigurd would use it better, but all in all, he does put in some work. I might start putting him on Infantry Pulse teams just to see how he does. He does already have Infantry Pulse. I, at some point, gave it to him. I can't remember giving him the fodder. But the set is pretty standard for a light season carry. You got the null follow-up, quick riposte, Divine Tearfing's damage reduction. So all in all, he can put in work. I just didn't end up using him as much, which is a shame. But at least he was in the 3 to 4 star pool, so he was definitely easier to merge up than a lot of the other units that I use. If there was ever a plus 10 unit in my barracks that made me go, why did I go through with this? Spring Inigo would definitely be one of them. I did not intend to summon as much as I did on that banner, but for some reason, I guess I just thought that Spring Inigo looked cute, and I ended up going for it. He has ended up putting some use into my arena core for win season. I mean, with G-Dual flying 4, he does score pretty well. Coral Bow, Deadeye, premium skills. You get the gist. He mostly serves as a movement bot that allows his allies to just sort of hop around the arena a little bit. And also with aerobatics, he can somewhat get out of danger in a pinch. So part of me wonders why I went through with plus 10ing him, but I'd be lying if I said he didn't put in work afterwards. Coral Bow from a spare Summer Joshua that I got in I think it was a double special banner, basically gives him the opportunity to run a rain skill and still run a tier 4C skill at the same time. So it does put in work. It does synergize pretty well. I need to give him something better than Fortify Defense 4 at some point, but we'll see when that time comes because, I don't know, Arena is shifting quite a bit with all these new units that have been getting added, so I have a feeling that Spring Inigo is going to end up phasing out of utility eventually, which is very sad considering the amount of orbs that I spent to get him to plus 10. But all in all, somewhat regret getting the plus 10, but he did put in work, so I guess that does make things a little bit better. I think a lot of us know just how useful Brave Veronica can be it on Aether Raid's defense or PvE content. The set you see before you is a set that y'all might have noticed on some of my most recent Aether Raid's defense videos, just spreading the flash effect while also trying to dish out some damage. She does have her preferred refine in her skill repertoire, so I do tend to alternate between the two, but pretty standard skill, similar to what I said with Mercedes. You got the Razzle Dazzle in some capacity, attack speed push, attack speed solo, and odd recovery. She runs Miracle just in case she manages to like run it somehow or like proc it somehow. The reason she doesn't have an assist skill is because for the Aether Raid's defense setups that I've used her in, having a assist skill actually hinders her performance. It basically just makes her heal allies when I actually need her to be attacking. So I don't tend to run her with an assist skill unless I'm using her in some sort of PvE content. Brave Veronica, I actually plus 10'd her just because of the utility that she brings. And I had gotten a few copies of her through the 4-star specials, which had been introduced sometime before I decided to make her a genuine merch project. And all in all, she's just a very good unit to have. I think that as far as units in the 5-star pool are concerned, she is a very good unit to have, but definitely having her in the 4-star special pool was a boon, just because of the fact that she's a lot easier to summon, quote unquote, and therefore easier to plus 10. So all in all, definitely happy with my choice to have Brave Veronica. She's put in some work into my Aether Raid's defense videos, and hopefully I can get her other staves, so that way I can get some more use out of her, have her do more things other than just have her the drive effect in her weapon, in her preferred staff, or just spread the flash effect. My plus 10 Saros was very much an impulse moment. You know, you ever have those moments where you think you're not really going to summon a whole lot on a specific banner, but then you end up just going ham and cheese on it? Saros was one of those moments. It was specifically the A Hero Rises banner. I already had like a Saros at plus 2, I think, from her original banner. But A Hero Rises having decent summoning rates, plus the fact that it had another unit that I was trying to plus 10 at the time, plus good fodder even if I did get pity broken. You know, I ended up with a plus 10 Saros, what can I say? The set is really weird, I know. This is the set that I try to use on the setups that I have Legendary Sigurd on. And it works. It does allow her to tank a little bit better, but it definitely is starting to fall out. I think that I'm going to change it up a little bit. I have seen some videos, specifically Infantry Pulse's videos, where he runs Miracle Saros and Miracle Sothis whenever it's their bonus week. So that may be something I pursue if I can get the fodder, namely getting Infantry Pulse onto a bunch of other units, but I digress. So Saros definitely not benefiting as much as other units would from the plus 10, and by units I mean mythic units, because it just does not affect scoring as much on defense units as it does for offense units. So it is what it is. I have a plus 10 Saros. Sue me. You know, one of those moments where it's like I did not expect to be plus 10ing this character, but I did, and here we are, plus 10 Saros. You've seen her on my anima videos. She's always on there. So, you know, it's, now you get to see how many merges she actually has. Next up is my plus 10 Tethys. She was a plus 10 project because of the fact that I needed a easy dancer to plus 10 that had high HP for Infantry Pulse setups. And Tethys was actually one of the better options. There are dancers out there with higher HP like Ninian or Nils, for example, but they're exclusive to the 5-star pool. Tethys is readily available in the 3 to 4-star pool, so I thought, you know what, I need a high HP dancer that could provide some semblance of utility in Ouch Pouch, for example, and just nuke a unit with Iceberg if she manages to charge it up all the way. So now we have Tethys. You've seen her on my Dark Defense videos, but it was mostly because she's the only plus 10 dancer that I had at the moment that had some semblance of a use. Azura's HP is not good enough, in my opinion, to be used as an infantry pulser herself. So I used her in my dark defenses. She's now fallen out of favor. I'm gonna try to start using her in my anima defenses soon, though she does face competition with Mirabilis. But I think that there's no harm in having 2 dancers, you know? So definitely gonna try to get some more use out of Tethys, especially with the skills that I've invested into her. You know, Ouch Pouch with the Res Refine, Mirror Impact, HP Res 2, just buffing that Iceberg. Very good, though unfortunately, unless she doesn't do much outside of dancing and Iceberg bombs. So she works for sure, but I feel like if she had higher attack, she would do so much better, which is unfortunate. So, yep, that's my plus 10 Tethys for you. Brave Lyn, a project that was years in the making. Brave Lyn was actually the unit that I chose in the first ever Choose Your Legends round. Like, I chose her as my free unit, and she was the character that I used to solo clear so much of the content, but she definitely got power crept hard. So, you know, all in all, I didn't plus 10 her just because she's like still particularly useful. There's definitely units that do her job better nowadays, but I did it for the nostalgia. You know, Lyn had a special place in my heart. because of the fact that she was my first ever Choose Your Legends unit, and she was also the unit that I used to solo so much of the game's content in up to like year 4. The set you see here, it's basically just Poison Strike Savage Blow build with Fire Sweep. Nothing too crazy, to be honest with you. She does have Brave Bow and her preferred Refine as well. So, I mean, she doesn't get a lot of use nowadays. I might try to put her on a Cav line if I do like a remixed version of the Cav line that I posted most recently. So, not much else to say. I basically just plus 10'd her out of nostalgia. A lot of the copies were 4-star special copies. As you can see with the blue stars, I did get her Forma a while back. A while back. And then I think it was a revival banner where I actually get her the last like merge or two. So all in all, I'm just happy to have her. That's all I can really say about Brave Lynn at this point, because she's just really power crept and it makes me sad. My decision to get Bowie the plus 10 mainly stemmed from the fact that Water Season in Arena is disgusting. I needed something that could at least stand a chance at countering all the legendary Dimitris, legendary Chroms, legendary Leafs that were like just roaming Arena. And Bowie stood out because he does have high defenses. He does have at least partial close counter in his weapon because he can't counter dragon units. And he actually has colorless effectiveness in his tome, in his preferred tome. So I decided to plus 10 Bowie, gave him all the good skills. Ruptured Sky actually synergizes well against units that have really high attack stats like Legendary Chrom and Legendary Dimitri. So if he does get Ruptured Sky to proc, it does do a lot of damage. He doesn't always survive the hits from things like Legendary Dimitri, but, you know, it does do the job when I needed to. So he is definitely one of my most important units for Water Season at the moment. I feel like there are maybe units that could do better, but Bowie does the job well enough to where I still use him in Water Season. This was very much pretty late into the game compared to when Bowie got added, though. Bowie was an interesting character for me in Shadows of Valentia, so that just gave me bonus points to, like, motivate me to summon for him, or, like, at least save copies of him to get the plus 10. But I do have to say, yeah, I think that I could have benefited more from Bowie if I had plus 10'd him earlier on in the game. That's my one regret with this character. But again, he does put in the work still, even after having been added, like, what, Generation 1, basically? So, he definitely aged relatively well, better than a lot of other units in particular. So, that's my plus 10 Bowie. Triandra is definitely one of my favorite dancers to use in the game. I actually have her on one of my arena teams with G-Dual Flying 4 just because of the fact that she brings such good utility in the guard effect that her skills inflict. I can't remember if it's Flower of Sorrow or Frightful Dream specifically that inflicts the guard effect, but whichever one it is, it puts in work. With Ruptured Sky and G-Dual Flying 4, she does have a good enough SP total to where she can score extremely well even outside of Dark Season. Also, especially because G-Dual Flying 4 treats her BST as if it were so much higher than it actually is. So she definitely allows units to jump around a little bit on the map. She can jump around a bit herself with both Wings of Mercy and Aerobatics depending on the situation. And she's just really good utility to have as a dancer. Especially if you manage to get her on your arena defense team. You know, just having a dancer on arena defense is just so useful because it could just ruin an opponent's day if they're not prepared for this. So yeah, plus 10 Triandra, definitely my favorite of the fairies from book 4. And I don't know, just the fact, I think it was mostly her guard effect. That's what really sold me on trying to get merges for her, let alone of the eventual plus 10. I did get pretty lucky with some copies of her. I can't remember which of the recent banners it was that she was on that got me so close to the plus 10. But nonetheless, she puts in work both in Arena and Aether Raid's defense. I'll be very honest with you, I thought that I was going to get more use out of Resplendent Eliwood once I got him to plus 10. His stats are still great, but I plus 10'd him at a time where he was definitely falling out of favor in Aether Raid's defense, because for quite a while, he was definitely a force to be reckoned with in Aether Raid's defense. Now, the set that I'm running on him, I'm experimenting with him a little bit on Aether Raid's offense in conjunction with a far trace unit. I can't remember who it is at this moment in time, but point is, he's worked well. It's just like a lot of Gale Force units, it either works or it doesn't, you know? I don't really have much to say about him. I definitely plus 10'd him with the idea of using him to the same effect that people were using him before, up to like maybe a few months ago. But I definitely got to the game pretty late because he's definitely fallen out of favor. But I'm still trying to find some use for him for sure, because I definitely don't want to feel like I squandered those resources. Legendary Leaf I started as a plus 10 project only after I got a good amount of copies while I was summoning for Legendary Claude. At this moment in time, I thought maybe it would be a good idea to have a highly merged Legendary unit, at least 3 of them, so that I could have 3 different arena cores to alternate between. Legendary Leaf was my choice for the water hero, mostly because I got so many copies of him easily thanks to the Legendary Claude banner. He puts in work for sure, and he scores really well. He'd score way better if I got him a premium rally or something, but at the moment, I don't really have the fodder for a rally that wouldn't overlap with another member of the team, because I don't like the idea of having 2 of the same rally on the same team right now. His skills, you know, he could definitely benefit from a better C skill than Fortified Defense 4, but it's what I had at the moment, so we're just going to try to see if I can find something better for him later on, like Joint Drive Attack or Joint Drive Speed even. We'll figure that out later. But Legendary Leaf is definitely a monster to have at plus 10 in Water Season, just because of the fact that he has a Brave Weapon. And Nyaran Zeal gives him like some semblance of Gale Force, which ranged units do not have access to. So he's definitely a fantastic unit to be using in Arena. He also can put in work on Cav lines in Aether Raid's defense, though you do only want to be using him in Water Season, otherwise you're missing out on scoring and extra stats on him that he does kind of need. Even with 56 attack, sometimes with a lot of the bulkier units that have been added into the game, you're not going to see him get as many kills as one would like, just because of the sheer amount of defense that a lot of units nowadays has. But all in all, Legendary Leaf, despite having been added I think maybe a year ago, he's held up really well, and that's more that can be said for a lot of units that were added just a year ago. Morgan. The only reason I have her as a plus 10, as much as I love her character, is because of the fact that I got so many copies of her through the 4-star special pool and Pity Breakers before the 4-star special pool was even a thing. The set, definitely not meant to work all the time. The point here is to at least try to buff her res up as much as I can so that Sabotage res can proc, but I'd be lying if I said that I've gotten a lot of use from her since I got her to plus 10. I mean, it's an interesting set, I guess. Fury 4 actually would be better for her, but again, she was the most accidental plus 10 out of all of my units in these 2 videos that I've done showcasing my plus 10 units. So don't look into the set too much. I love Morgan. She was my daughter in Fire Emblem Awakening, and that game is near and dear to my heart. But her set is definitely not meant to be the most groundbreaking one for sure. With 2 more heroes to go, next up is my plus 10 Resplendent Leaf. So my intention with plus 10ing him was mostly to make him a Gale Force unit with the Ninja Katana and Flashing Blade, especially considering his speed stat actually reaches really high amounts. especially with skills such as Fury and speed boosts from allies such as, I believe, Plumeria's the Astra Speed Mythic and Peony on Light Season. He worked pretty well, but like with a lot of Guild Force strats, it either works or it doesn't. So I just had some of the fodder lying around, and I had gotten so many copies of him through 4-star special summons that I decided, you know what, let's plus 10 him, give him a try. I had gone to plus 9 with the resplendent copy, and then when his most recent revival came around, I summoned for the plus 10. You know, I was 1 copy away, so it was pretty easy. But he worked for a little bit, but I kind of stopped using Gale Force strategies because I needed something way more consistent for Aether Raid's offense. But I'm glad I have him. He did put in some work. He's not the worst Gale Force option, but there are definitely sword units that do his job much better. Lastly, we have plus 10 Jennie, the last unit on this list. Like Resplendent Leaf, I ended up getting a lot of copies of her through the 4-star special. A lot of my 5-star exclusive plus 10s ended up being through this summoning occurrence. And she works pretty well. I haven't used her a whole lot because I plus 10'd her very recently. But the build is, practically speaking, pretty akin to a colorless tome, just because of the sheer amount of attack that she has and the fact that she has Wrathful Staff, not Dazzling Staff, in her weapon. Or no, that's a lie. She has both Wrathful Staff and Dazzling Staff. She just has Dazzling Staff in her weapon. So she works really well, and the build itself is focused on stacking up her speed as much as I can, because she is pretty slow, and this is the only way that I can get her to double a lot of threats. So, not really much to say. I haven't used her a whole lot yet, but I'm definitely excited to put her to use, even though she is another accidental plus 10. With that being said, that is it for my plus 10 Barracks tour. Thank you all so much for sticking around and for your patience with this second part. And definitely look forward to more Fire Emblem Heroes content. Definitely trying to think up some ideas for videos that aren't Aether Raid's defense, but definitely stay tuned for more videos showcasing different units or different things that I have going on in my barracks. So thank you all so much again, and I hope you all have a pleasant today, and I'll be even better tomorrow.